Picking your very first Pokemon as the starter Pokemon in every single game you've played can sometimes be a challenging choice. But also, for a lot of people, sometimes it can be the easiest choice in the world. When it comes to the original starters, grass, water, and fire, this has always been the tradition in every single Pokemon game. And in today's video, I'm going to be going over every single starter Pokemon from Generation 1 all the way to Generation 9, and talking about the ones that I personally like to the ones that I really don't really like. There's even most generations where I actually prefer all three. There might even be some where I might just prefer two over one, or somewhat up over the others. To me, I don't really care about the design of the Pokemon. Most YouTube PokeTubers, when it comes to picking their starters, they either look at the typing of the Pokemon, the design of the Pokemon, and also, the design of how the Pokemon looks, and believing that the design and the typing will be enough and how the Pokemon looks, again, design, if it really fits their narrative or not. Sometimes I don't even really care what the Pokemon looks like, or even if its design isn't very good, or even if its typing isn't very good. To me, I look at the Pokemon as if it can do very, very well throughout the entire game, and if it ends up being really good all the way through the end to where you get to the league. And obviously, every single starter can nail this to a T. Every single starter can obviously go from start to end, but the thing is, what ones are good and which ones are not very good. I will be basing this off of how I personally feel about about the generation of Pokemon, about the generation of starters, but also I'll also be basing this off of the gym leaders. Basically picking up your starter and really going over every single gym to see which starter could actually perform well in each gym. So obviously we're going to be starting off with Generation 1. Obviously, the best starter in Generation 1 is Bulbasaur, because Bulbasaur can easily destroy Brock and Misty. Obviously, it may struggle a little bit against Lieutenant Surge, but it'll be fine. But Erica might provide a little bit of a problem due to her also being a Grass type specialist. But also you've got Koga, who's a Poison type user, Sabrina, who's Psychic, and Blaine, who is Fire, and obviously Giovanni, who is Ground. Basically, Bulbasaur only struggles against technically two gyms, that being Sabrina and Blaine. So, I look at Bulbasaur the best starter for this reason. Charmander's the worst, kind of for the same reason. That's kind of like Bulbasaur. It struggles against Brock and Misty. It does fine against Lieutenant Surge. Charmander obviously eviscerates the Grass-type gym leader. And obviously Charizard will probably do fine in the other gyms, obviously except for the fire one. Squirtle will perform well only against Brock and the Fire-type specialist. Squirtle won't do very well against the Water-type specialist, and Squirtle gets eviscerated by Lieutenant Surge, and Squirtle also gets eviscerated by the Grass-type specialist. So overall, that's why I consider Bulbasaur the best. It just depends on the gym leaders, and also you have other Pokemon with you. If you try to beat the entire games with just your starter, then maybe you'll see how difficult it actually is going to be then. So, we go on to Gen 2, and Gen 2, again, Gen 2 has the same problem, but this time, it's with the Grass type. Because the Grass type was so OP in Gen 1, they decided to make the grass type the worst starter in the game, that being Chikorita. Now, personally, Chikorita, I don't hate Chikorita. I personally do not mind Chikorita. I think its evolutions, Bayleaf and Megadium, have potential, but everybody knows that the Pokemon just straight up sucks in its generation, because the first gym leader is Flying, and the second gym leader is Bug, which both types, Grass, are weak to. There's obviously a normal type specialist, which is Whitney and her god-awful Miltank. Then you have Morty, the ghost type gym leader, who Grass isn't really going to perform well against ghosts either. You've also got a fighting type gym, which Grass also isn't going to perform well against. Steel type, which again Grass also doesn't work well against. And then you've got Ice, which again is another type Grass is weak to. And of course Chikorita's not going to do much, or Megadium isn't going to do much to Claire's Dragons. So other than potentially Whitney, every other gym the Grass starter struggles against. 90% of the gyms, Chikorita cannot even do much against them. And that is why Chikorita is easily the worst starter out of all of them there. In my opinion, the best one is Cyndaquil. To me, Cyndaquil is the best starter, because Cyndaquil obviously takes care of the bugs, and also takes care of the Steel-type gym leader. But I also like Typhlosion. I think Typhlosion is easily the best starter in Gen 2. But also, Totodile, which is final evolution for Alligator, also performs well against most of the gym leaders. So personally, I think Feraligatr and Typhlosion are two of the better starters in that generation. Mainly because of their performance and their typing, and I think they just overall will do better against most of the gyms anyway. But again, as I said, you will have other Pokemon on your team, so you'll be fine in that regard. But again, Chikorita, you just won't be using Chikorita in most of your gym battles because of how bad it is. Gen 3, my favorite generation, and personally, I love all three. I think Trico, Torchic, and Mudkip are all very good. Though Torchic is the one I don't use the most, because again, the Rock type is the first type. If you were to just solo the game with just your starter, you are going to have no chance at beating Roxanne. No, not that Roxanne. With just rock type against the rock types. You would literally just have to evolve Torchic into a Combusken, because basically then it becomes a fighting type, and it will learn Double Kick, and then it will destroy the rock types. Which personally I think that's a bit lame. Which personally I think that's pretty lame. Which personally I think that is pretty lame and pretty lazy to do. But if you're playing the Pokemon Sapphire version, if you play the Sapphire version of the games, then you'll be able to catch a Lotad, and that way Lotad will be able to help you. Yeah, Ruby also helps because you get a C-Dot, but I think Lotad will do a lot better. So, again, other than just, we can catch other Pokemon to fix the issue that we have with our typings, but if we solely just focus on the starters, and look at their typings, and then look at the gym leaders and see how they perform against the gym leaders, if you were just soloing the game with just them, you would easily see the issues. Obviously, Trico and Mudkip destroy Roxanne's rock types. They do neutral damage against Growly, who is the fighting type, and obviously Mudkip falls down a peg because of the electric type gym leader Watson, while Trico sort of performs well against it, but Torchic will perform well against the electric type because your Torchic will most likely be Combusken and will have fighting type moves. Trico falls down a peg because of the fire-type user Flannery, while Mudkip rises up again, taking care of the fire-types. And then after that you've got Norman, who is basically your dad in that game. All three starters, obviously the advantage will go to Torchic here. Basically, hopefully by then it's a Blaziken, but if not, you might be pretty close to having a Blaziken. But obviously Torchic will probably have the advantage there because, oh, it's half fighting type, it will be able to take care of Norman's normal type Pokemon. And then after you've dealt with Norman, you've got the flying type user Winona, who the fire and grass type starters will not do very well because Torchic will be half fighting type by then, the flying type will be super effective against its fighting type half. So if you had all three starters, how in the world would you perform well in this gym? Well, Mudkip should be a Swampert by then, would obviously know Ice Beam, which you can get the TM for it, so maybe Swampert would be able to deal with Winona with Ice Beam, because, Ice-type moves are strong against flying. And then after that, you've got the Psychic-type duo, Tate and Liza. Blaziken has no chance due to its fighting typing, will just get destroyed by the Psychic types. So again, if you're just basing yourself on starters, again, that's why I don't consider the fighting type the best option. People only prefer the fire type because they think it's cool, because they think the fire types are just cool. Not all fire types are cool. Not all fire types are cool. Some of them are cool, but not all of them are. But obviously in the last gym leader is a water type gym leader, which is Watson, which Sceptile, the final stage of Trico, should be able to deal with. So overall, it's kind of even with the starters. Like, they all have an advantage, they all have disadvantage, and that's why I like all of them. Because they all have their advantages and they all have their disadvantages. And honestly, the diverse typings that they used for Hoenn's gym leaders, I thought was really good. Instead of just doing the typical, there's always a grass, water, and fire gym or whatever, which we kind of see a lot nowadays. I'm kind of glad they decided to go a bit more diverse with the typings. Gen 4, which is Turtwig, Chimchar, and Piplup, I really like all three as well. I don't really think there's a bad one. Maybe the only terrible starter might be Turtwig, though I love Torterra. Maybe Torterra would be considered the worst starter in this generation due to the fact that it can't do very well against most of the gyms. Obviously, it can handle the rock types. Obviously, the rock types are just destroyed by the grass and water starters, and Chimchar will struggle against the rock type gym leader, which that one is Roar. And then you got the grass type gym leader in that game as well, by the name of Gardenia, which obviously the fire type will be able to take care of, and obviously the water type would struggle against, which by then you'd have a Staravia, you'd have a flying type, so all three starters shouldn't really be that much of a problem. But again, I am talking as if you're going to play the entire game with just the starters. Now, obviously, you're going to need HMs to get yourself around the areas, and not all starters can do that. And not all starters can do that, obviously. But, which obviously all starters can't do that, obviously. So then after Gardenia, you would have the fighting type specialist, Maylene, who has a Lucario. Now, surprisingly, Chimchar will perform well in this gym, mainly because of Lucario's steel typing, and its fire typing would be able to take care of it. Because its fire types will be able to take care of the steel typing. So that gives Monferno, or Infernape, the Chimchar evolutionary line, a big advantage. Which she's one of the gym leaders you would really struggle against. Obviously, the grass starter deals with the water type specialist, Crasher Wake, which again, as I've talked about already, sometimes it's very annoying to just always see the same damn typings in every gym. But also, I also get it. And then after Crasher Wake, you will have the Ghost type specialist. What's her name again? I've forgotten her name. I have forgotten the Ghost type gym leader's name in Darwin and Pearl. What's her name? What's her name? What's her name? What's her name? Oh, her name is escaping me right now. I've forgotten her name! What's wrong with me? I'm supposed to be good at this. What's wrong with me? I'm supposed to be good at this. Oh, what's her name again? Oh. It's not... Oh, it's gonna drive me crazy when I remember her name. Oh, it's gonna... Fantina! There you go, that's her name. Good God, finally remembered. God, it drives me God, it took me a while to remember her. Remember her name. Fantina, that's her name. I knew it started with F. That's all I remembered. Thank God, I finally remembered. Fantina. She's the Ghost type specialist in that game. Which all three starters obviously aren't going to perform pretty well against her because she's a Ghost type specialist. But again, as I said, you'd have other Pokemon with you by then, so you'd know how to deal with Ghost types. Then after her, you have Byron. You have Byron, the Steel type user. You'd have Byron, the Steel type user, which water and fire take care of Steel. Well, mainly fire, but also they'll have rock and ground types. And then after that, you have Candace, who's the Ice type specialist, and then Volkner, who has electric types. So me personally, I think this is the one generation where I actually say the fire type was actually the better starter. The one generation where I will say the fire type starter is absolutely the better choice. I actually really like Infernape. Oh man, Gen 5. God, Gen 5. We have the starters in that game. Snivy, Tepig, and Oshawott. Now, in Black and White, this is actually interesting, and I like what they did with Black and White's first gym leaders. They have 3 gym leaders, Silent, Cress, and Chili. And depending on the starter you chose, you will be fighting the gym leader that is the weakness to your starter. And I think that is a brilliant idea. And I really like that. It causes that your starter will not have an advantage in the first gym. So yeah, depending on the starter you chose, you'll be fighting either Silent, Cress, or Chili, depending on the starter you ended up choosing. You'll fight Chili, the fire type guy, if you choose Snivy. You'll fight Cress if you choose Tepig, and you'll face Silent if you chose Oshawott. Now that obviously changed in Black and White 2, which there are only 3 new gym leaders in Black 2 and White 2, which I'll only go over them when I need to. Because right now I'm just talking about Black and White 1. Then after that, you got the normal type specialist, Lenora, who's a normal type user, and my god, your starters are no good against her. Jesus Christ, she was one of the more toughest gym leaders. Just grab yourself a fighting type Pokemon. Or just get your damn Tepig to evolve into a Pig Knight, which makes it a fighting type. Yeah, no, 3 generations in a row, we go with a fire fighting type with the starter, which that started a big massive meme and really started to annoy a lot of people in the community. After that, you have Berg, the bug type specialist. You'll have Berg, who's the bug type specialist, and then you will have, and then you will have. I think her name is Elisa. I think her name's Elisa. I know it's something with an E. I think it's Elisa, the electric type user. She's an electric type user, and then you've got Clay, who's a ground type user, and then you've got, and then I think you've got the ice type specialist, and then you have the dragon type specialist. Oh. And then you have the dragon type specialist. I can't remember the ice type. I think his name is, I can't remember the ice type one. Can't remember his name. But the dragon one is either Drayden or Iris, depending on you chose black or white as your game. But Black 2 added 3 different gym leaders, which is Sharon, who's a normal type user. He basically replaces Lenora, sorry. I'm an idiot. And you've also got a poison type user, and you have a poison type user named Trixie? No, Roxy, sorry. Roxy, sorry. Why did I have Trixie on my head? I guess that... Like, I knew it was I-X-I-E, but I couldn't remember the first letter. It was Roxy. And then you've got a new water type, and then you've got another water type specialist, and then you have another water type specialist. I can't remember that guy's name for the life of me. But out of all those typings, I think your starters are 50-50 on that one, I think the starters are 50-50, depending on how well they perform against each gym leader. I think it's 50-50, but I would probably edge things more if... I think I'd go 50-50. I think I'd go 50-50. I like all 3, but if I had to pick which ones I would prefer, I'd probably prefer Serperior, which is the grass starter's final evolution. So, yeah, that's about it. So, yeah, that's really about it there. As for Gen 6, we have Chespin, Fennekin, and Froakie. In my opinion, I'm not a fan of the fire type in that game. I know my girlfriend loves it. Which, you know, that's fair enough. That's her taste. But, I just do not like Fennekin. I think, even though Fennekin has an advantage in the bug type gym leader, because the bug type is the first one you deal with, I just don't like the only good thing about Fennekin is that it wasn't a fire fighting type. It was a fire psychic type when it fully evolved. So that was really the only good thing. But other than that, I kind of prefer Chestnut and Greninja. Mainly Greninja, who's the final evolution of Froakie. Because I just think Froakie and... I just think Greninja is obviously way cooler. But obviously when it comes to the gym leaders, you have a bug type user. I kind of don't remember the order of X and Y, Gen 6, but I'll try to remember. It starts off with Bug, then it goes Rock, and then I think it goes Fighting, Grass. Those are the first 4, those are 4. Then I think it's Fairy, Psychic. I'm clearly missing one because I've got 5 fingers. And then Ice, and then clearly I'm missing one more. Electric! There you go. They're not in the correct order. That was not the correct order. At all. But yeah, I remember all the typings now. But the way I counted them, that was not the correct order. I think it goes Bug and Rock. Then I think Fighting type is next, and then I think the Grass type user is next. Then it's the Electric type user. Then it's the Fairy user. Then it's the Psychic user, and then it's the Ice type user. I think that's the order. I might have to play X and Y again to remember. But yeah, So those are all the those are all the gym leader typings. I would kind of go with Greninja as the overall best starter in X and Y, Gen 6. Gen 7, there are no gym leaders in Gen 7. So I don't have to really talk about, I don't have to go over all the gym leaders in Gen 7, because Sun and Moon, Gen 7, they did away with gym leaders. They went with a different direction this time, and there were no gym leaders. All I will say is about the starters, Rowlet, Litten, and Populo, which fully evolve into Decidueye, Incineroar, and Primarina. I just say the Fire type was the best one, because Litten becomes a Fire Dark type, and Incineroar looks like a wrestler. And Incineroar was based off of a wrestler, because they call it the heel Pokemon. They basically based it off of a wrestler, and also a Pokemon named Hawlucha was based off of Lucha Libre Mexico wrestlers, which I think is pretty hilarious. So yeah, I don't really have to say which one's the better one, the best out of these ones in Generation 7, because there were no gym leaders in that one. I'm not gonna go over all the kahunas in that one, because there's just so many to remember in that one. And again, Sun and Moon is probably my least favorite out of all the Pokemon games. Gen 7 is probably my least favorite out of all of them, so I don't really remember much about that. The only thing I remember about Gen 7 is Lily, the rival Gladion, who is also Lily's brother, and also the legendaries. That's really all I really remember about Gen 7. So, sorry, Gen 7 lovers. I'm not going to fully go over Gen 7. But Gen 8, obviously, the one game I played the most, because I love Gen 8. Obviously, we know the starters of Gen 8, which is Grookey, Scorbunny, and Sobble. I know a lot of people will just say, oh, the Fire type is easily the best starter, because it looks cooler than the others, which I disagree with. I think Rillaboom looks really good, and I started with Rillaboom, who's really awesome. Inteleon is alright. Inteleon is pretty good. Sobble's final evo, and while Cinderace, Scorbunny's final evolution is also pretty good, that really wasn't the starter I really cared about. Which again, people just like picking the fire starters because the fire type is just cooler. But, you know, because I played it more, you've got Milo, who's the grass type user, you've got Nessa, the water type user, and you have I've forgotten the fire type guy's name. There you go. Yeah, I played Gen 8 a lot more, but I can't remember the fire type person. But this was the generation that they just basically had, okay, your starter will have one advantage. You'll have one advantage and one disadvantage. Depending on the starter you choose, you'll have an advantage in one of the gyms, but then you'll have a disadvantage in the other gym. Basically. So you'd have grass, water, and fire as the first three gyms. Then after that, now this is where things get interesting. Depending on the game you play, there will be two different gyms in this same town. If you play Sword, you'll be dealing with a fighting type user named Bay, but if you're playing Shield, you'll be dealing with a ghost type user named Alistair. So there's a little bit of a branching there. You'll have a fairy type user to deal with. You'll have a fairy type user to deal with. You also have a dark type gym leader, so that's the first time dark types ever had a gym leader. And you'll also be dealing with another branch of two different gym leaders. Sword will have a rock type user, and Shield has an ice type user. And then the last typing is Dragon, though the gym leader only uses two dragons in there. So again, your starter choice really depends. when you think of all the typings that you have there. But overall, I think Gen 8 is my overall favorite starter lineup, and obviously it's my second favorite generation behind Hoenn. And Gen 9, we have all. And Gen 9, not Score Bunnies. Sprigatito is the best starter in that one. Mainly because I haven't had a lot of time to play the games over and over again to get used to Fuecoco and Quaxly. Like, everybody shattered on the Grass Cat, mainly because, oh, it becomes a Grass Dark type. Very terrible typing. Well, typing doesn't matter. Typing doesn't matter. And also, people didn't like it because, it didn't look great. And I'm just like, well, that's your opinion. Meowscarada, the Grass-type starter, is the best starter in Generation 9. Though I could probably go over the gym leaders in Gen 9, you can kind of battle them in any order. You have a Bug-type user named Katie, a Grass-type user... Wow, the music had to start over. Well, give me a second. We have a Grass-type user named Brassius, an Electric-type user named Iono, who I genuinely like and find very funny in that game. In the games. We then have a Psychic-type user. We have a Ghost-type user. We have an Ice-type user as well. And we have a Water-type user. And we also have a Normal-type user. Again, I didn't go in order, but I just remembered off the top of my head the ones that I can remember. But overall, I genuinely think Gen 9's gym lineup isn't bad when it comes to typings. But I will say, it's nice to have different lineups every now and then. It's fine to have a different lineup every now and then. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts on all the starters and which ones I prefer are the best. So I hope you guys like this video. If you guys want to see more Pokemon content like this, hit that thumbs up. Give me your thoughts. Who do you think are the best starters in every generation down below? And which one do you think are the worst in every generation? Let me know. Hit that like button. And I will see you all on the other side.